600 days of strict carnivore. Let's talk about what I learned. Hey, what's shaking bacon? My name's Bruno Pinucci. We'll get right into today's topic. So I've been doing carnivore for over 600 days. Before that, I did it intermittently. I was on it, I was off it, but I did it for years, since 2018. And before that, I was zero carb on and off. I did it consistently for 1 year from October 2013 to October 2014. I had a lot of background with eating this way and a lot of mistakes. I had to learn from those mistakes. Sometimes I repeated them many times before I finally learned what not to do and how to be consistent. You have to be honest with yourself when it comes to this. Are you doing carnivore but not really? And then you're kind of frustrated that you're not getting the results you wanted? Because I'm going to talk about what I've learned along this time frame of the 600 days and all that time leading up to it. So let's start with number one. What I've learned know your weak points. If you know you're not going to do well when you go to somebody's house or out for dinner, or you've gone too long between eating windows and now you're hungry and you give into something that you're not supposed to be eating, you got to recognize that. I tried for years to try and manage those problems and try and work with those problems. And the reality is, while you're still dealing with carbohydrate and sugar addiction, you're going to have issues with that because it's the carbohydrate and sugar addiction that's making you give into those temptations. You can call it anything else you want. Well, someone made me something special. Well, somebody did this for me. I'm going to a special occasion. You can call it what you want. You're giving into a temptation. Now, if it's something that you don't need to worry about because you're fine with where you've landed and your health problems aren't an issue, or you just never had any to begin with, and you're good with the quality of life you have, well, then that's great. You can moderate junk food if that's what you want to do. I have to abstain. So when you have someone who's always giving in to these temptations and cravings or treats, and then you're wondering why you're not getting the results, you have to stop and analyze what you've been doing and if it's been working. And if it's been what's holding you back from being consistent with carnivore, it's time to correct those speed bumps. Something that took me a long time to learn was I'm an abstainer, not a moderator. I can't have a lick, taste, or bite of anything off a carnivore diet. I have meat and meat products, and that's it. So if I was to have a sauce on my steak or some piece of chicken, that sauce usually contains sugar. The sugar or carbs in that sauce can waken that sugar and carbohydrate addiction that's dormant in my brain right now. Right now, it has no pulse. It doesn't get me at all. I have no cravings, and it takes a while to get to that point where you have no cravings. Now, I struggled with cravings for a long time, and I always gave into them. I had one reason or another, but I was always giving into them. And maybe one day it was ice cream. Maybe a few days later it was cake. Maybe a few days later it was pizza. The problem is, if you're not being honest with yourself and you're really moderating that food and you're not getting the results with carnivore, and you think, well, I just had a glass of wine last week. And then a week later, well, I just had another small little bit of carbs. I had some breaded chicken or something like that. You're getting enough carbs or sugar to compromise the results of what you're trying to achieve. So maybe you have to be honest and cut those things out. Maybe you are naturally an abstainer and you don't know it yet. Maybe you have to go through the constant lessons of trying to moderate before you can either master that, or maybe you're at the point where diet-wise or energy-wise or health-wise, you have to abstain. Even if you can moderate and you're not addicted to carbs, maybe to get the benefits of a carnivore diet, the vast majority of the way isn't enough for you, and you have to go all the way. I've mentioned this in some other videos before. I have an old friend who's been doing carnivore for a number of years. He's a moderator, but for a while there, he didn't have a lick, taste, or bite of anything off a carnivore diet. And for the first 5 months, he wasn't doing that. He was having sugar in his coffee, a teaspoon of sugar in his coffee, 3 coffees a day. So the problem with that was, in the first 5 months, he didn't notice anything doing a carnivore diet. All he ate was meat. All he drank was water and coffee. That was it. But there's that little bit of sugar. Think about that. What's 3 teaspoons of sugar? You think that equals maybe about an apple worth of sugar in a day? Well, that's what he was getting in little doses all through the day. After 5 months, he finally cut that out, and that's when he got all the benefits of carnivore. He leaned out, lost fat, put on muscle, and of course with that put on lean mass in his bones, and all his minor health problems that he had went away. And he was already a skinny guy, so he didn't have any issues with wanting to lose weight. He probably went down to about a 10% body fat. He was ripped, and it didn't happen until he cut out that last little bit. If you're having your glass of wine once a week or some alcohol, maybe that's where you have to be a little more honest with yourself and realize you can't moderate if you want to get the results. You have to move towards being an abstainer. Another thing I noticed that helps, especially for people in the beginning, just stay satiated. Stay full on the foods you can eat. Don't worry about the weight loss. You're probably going to get weight loss anyway, just because you cut out all those carbs and sugar from your diet. So even though you're having more protein and more fat in your diet, don't worry about it, because you're at least going to debloat and you're still going to lose weight. Now, after a few months, when your carbohydrate addiction is way under control, and you could sit in front of your favorite dessert or your favorite food or favorite beverage and not be tempted by it, and you could literally look at it dispassionately and go, no, it's okay, I don't want any. Then you can try worrying about weight loss. For now, in the beginning, learn about just staying full, getting in tune with your hunger signals. Don't intermittent fast in the beginning. In my opinion, you shouldn't intermittent fast in the beginning. When you intermittent fast in the beginning, you're screwing up your hunger signals. You can work towards intermittent fasting once you're steady with carnivore. Once you've mastered carnivore, give it a few months and you're not dealing with any cravings anymore, so that when you go longer windows without eating, then start intermittent fasting. Go longer and longer windows. But if you're trying to do that in the beginning, you're setting yourself up for a fall, because typically what's going to happen is you'll get to the point where you're hungry and you'll give into something off of the carnivore diet. So you're making this process more difficult on yourself in the beginning when you're intermittent fasting. You're just doing a little too much all at once. Just focus on carnivore. Meal prep helps make life easy. It's so great when you meal prep. I don't just cook 2 burgers. Typically, I'll cook a barbecue full of burgers, sometimes 2. I'll make sure I have enough burgers to get through the day. I'll make sure I have enough burgers to get through the week if I can, because it makes it so much easier when you can just go into the fridge and grab something quick because you ended up getting behind schedule and now you're late for work, or you're late for an appointment, or you're late for a visit with a friend, or you're going to someone's house and you want to make sure you eat before you get there so that you don't give in to any temptations. That's not an issue for me anymore. But still, that is an issue for a lot of people. So you can always have food on hand. It makes life a lot easier. It's less cooking through the week. It's less cleaning through the week. Life is great when you're carnivore. Your workload goes way down, especially when you're barbecuing, because there's not much to clean afterwards. Another thing I learned is it's not all about calories. And it's not all about hormones. Some people are married to their belief that it's all one or the other. There's people who are like, I don't care how many calories you get. You eat more, you're going to lose weight. Well, that's not necessarily true. If you have good metabolic health, most likely. But if you have bad metabolic health, that may not work. It hasn't worked for me. In the past, I've never let calories guide my day-to-day decisions when it came to eating carnivore. I ate as much as I wanted and I lost weight and corrected most of my health problems by doing that. But when you're in a maintenance level, I think that's where calories come in if you're a counter. But if you're too obsessed with calories, you could just be doing a little bit more damage to your body. That's an old school way of dieting. This isn't a diet to lose weight. It's a diet that heals your body, and the side effect is losing weight. You have to fuel your body to lose weight. Now, you might have to tweak down the road, as I'm doing right now, how to fuel your body with the ratios of fat to protein and then the overall amount, because you might still have some problems that you need a little more fine tuning. And when that happens, that's when you can start playing with that. But in the beginning, just eat meat, just eat fat. I probably still have insulin resistance, even though I lost about my last 90 pounds doing a carnivore diet in the last year and 8 months. Since 2013, I've lost over 150 pounds doing zero carb in different ways. I had insulin resistance. Clearly, when you get that big, I was up to over 465 pounds. When you have insulin resistance, your body's going to struggle to lose weight. Your insulin, which is a hormone, isn't letting you use your fat as fuel. I got to the point where I managed my blood sugar better with a carnivore diet, but it wasn't good enough. I was still having some insulin problems, so I found a way to tweak that. And I lost a lot more weight, and my gout problems went away. That was one of the health problems I had, and I started losing weight. I'm at the point again where I've plateaued. So typically on a carnivore diet, they'll say, well, just keep eating. Don't worry about it. Just keep eating. Your body's healing. But it doesn't mean we can't try and not speed the process up, but work towards figuring out what the problem is that's causing your plateau. If you have a plateau for a couple weeks or a couple months, I honestly wouldn't worry about it. Sometimes your body needs to catch up. But if it's lasting 6 months, a year, 2 years, maybe it's something you just need to tweak. Simple as that. And maybe you need to look at your macros. Maybe you do need to look at your calories. Maybe you need to look at how much you're getting all at once. I've recently switched from roughly 2 meals a day down to multiple small meals a day. Well, a lot of people don't like that because they're in the hormone camp with insulin. The reality is most of that knowledge came from Dr. Fung's book on fasting. He argues that's the only way to reduce your insulin, and it's fasting. Well, that's definitely not true. He minimizes every other way of losing weight and every other way of lowering your insulin. You can exercise, that lowers your insulin, and you can eat smaller portions. Smaller portions give such a small bump in your blood sugar. Your insulin has a small bump to go with that. And then you just stay nice and even all through the day. When you have big meals, your insulin will spike because your sugar will spike, right? So that's what I've been doing, and that's how I need to tweak this. And here's the proof that Dr. Fung isn't absolutely right about that. Look at bodybuilders. For decades, bodybuilders have lost weight eating 6 to 8 meals a day, all portion sized, very small, with protein all through the day. When they do their cutting for their competitions, they don't eat once a day. They eat multiple times a day, and they still cut all that fat and work towards maintaining muscle. Dr. Fung, I don't think he's lifted a weight a day in his life if you look at him. And I don't mean that as an insult, but the reality is he has to dismiss all these other arguments to make his look like it doesn't only work, but it's the best. It's the only way. And it's not true. Fasting can work for lots of people, but it's not the only way to lower your insulin. So I'm at a level where my insulin resistance is better, but it's probably not gone. So I've had to tweak what I'm doing. I'm down to about 4 to 6 ounces, usually about 6 ounces of meat multiple times a day, about 4 times a day, and I'm making sure to get more fat. So I'm at least an 80-20 ratio with protein to fat. Seems to be working. The scale's budging for the first time in a long time, just through diet. I haven't been exercising too much in the last month, just enough to maintain. And keep in mind, though I've been plateaued with my weight, I've still lost inches on my waist and maintained my lean mass. So don't measure all your results with a scale. Don't forget all the other health benefits you get doing carnivore, not just with the scale, but with your waist, with your health problems clearing up. Keep that in mind. You can't lose focus of that. And another thing is you can't expect it all at once. It takes weeks sometimes. It takes months for your body to heal. And just because you're doing everything right and you're not getting results doesn't mean it's not working. Just the healing process might be a little bit slower. You might need to tweak it a little bit here or there, but don't stop. Stay true to your course. Another thing is find your tribe. When I was first doing zero carb before I came across carnivore, I had no tribe. I didn't have anyone online to kind of help me through this or coach me through this. I didn't really have anyone to bounce this off of. Try and find people that are doing carnivore at a certain level that you want to get to, and follow those people. If someone says they're 100% strict with carnivore and they're still having treats regularly, they just don't really admit it too much on camera. They're having this or that, and that's not what you want, maybe you shouldn't follow them. Maybe you should follow someone that's doing it 100% strict. Someone who's not having a lick, taste, or bite of anything. And I'm not referring so much to me, but there's carnivores out there who don't cheat at all. If you don't mind going 99% of the way, for lack of a better term, then follow those people. If that's good enough for you, then follow those people. You have to look towards people who are where you want to go. And you want to follow those people and you want to learn from those people. That's why I recommend Kelly Hogan's coaching groups. There's a lot of people out there doing coaching groups, and you just want to make sure you're following someone that's as strict as you want to be. And last but not least, it's important to help others. When you get to a certain point up the mountain that you've climbed and you've worked hard to get there, help others up. They're going to start building you up. And here's a good example of that. I got a friend of mine turned on to carnivore a few years ago. He was the one that was battling with the coffee and the sugar for the first 5 months of his carnivore journey. And I was going on and off of it at the time because I was dealing with some emotional eating and gout. Now, once he got strict with it and he just flew, it really inspired me. And I thought, wow, this is pretty cool. I'm really impressed with how far he's gone with this. His wife is really impressed. It upped her game. It upped my game. And he's a moderator. He's never dealt with sugar or carbohydrate addiction, whereas I have. So I have to be an abstainer. But it inspired me to get to the level I wanted to be at because I helped him up the mountain a certain way. And then he climbed past me. And I was like, this is awesome. And I didn't do it in a competitive way. I was like, this is awesome. I want to go up to where he's at. And we bounce it off of each other all the time. The guy lives 5 minutes away from me. He's a childhood friend. His wife has been a friend of mine for years. And it's really nice to have people in your circle so you can help each other up the mountain. He's at a point on the mountain where he is totally satisfied. He is completely satisfied with where he is with carnivore. He barely treats himself, but when he does, it's a very small amount and he's satisfied with that. I'm at the point where I can't treat myself, but yet we inspired each other. We built each other up and we got to a point where we're going further and further with carnivore whenever we want to. And we bounce ideas and topics off of each other. So keep this in mind. I hope this helps you. This is what I've learned in my 600 days of being 100% strict carnivore and all the years that led up to getting to that point where I could do that. So I hope this video was beneficial. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. If you like, please leave a comment. I'll talk to you later. Take care.